So if Trump wants to be a gangster and bully and said, I'm going to take your money if you win, doesn't he realize that when people straighten their backs up and have a spine and respond to his bully activity?
Anna Kasparian and Dr. Cornel West were guests on Abby Phillip's CNN show to go up against a panel that included a couple of MAGA stooges, which is always the case on Abby Phillip's show. The topic was Zohran Mamdani and the threats that Donald Trump is making against him. We're going to take a look at clips of this panel from Abby Phillip's show with Cornel West and Anna Kasparian. I will share my thoughts on this as well. Let's get into it together.
Tonight, Zohran Mamdani fires back at President Trump's threats to New York City funding. Over the weekend, Trump said Mamdani's campaign to be mayor will prove to be, quote, one of the best things to ever happen to our great Republican Party. He added that Mamdani, quote, needs the money from me as president in order to fulfill all of his fake communist promises. He won't be getting any of it, so what's the point of voting for him? Well, CNN's Aaron Burnett spoke to Mamdani about that threat tonight. Here's what he said.
So the number this year from the federal government was $7.4 billion to New York City. Are you okay if New York City loses that?
No, we will fight for every single dollar that the city currently receives from the federal government. And I look for examples across this country that showcase the best way to respond to Donald Trump's strengths is not collaboration, is his threats rather. It's responding with strength. And what we see in California is an attorney general of the state has estimated that for every dollar they spent on lawsuits against the federal government's threats to withhold funding, they won more than $30,000 in what would otherwise have been lost. And so we will take that same approach.
The paradox, of course, of Trump's post and also of his behavior in this whole situation is that he says this is so good for Republicans, and yet he seems to be willing to do almost anything to get Mamdani out of this race. It's too late now, more than likely, but why? Why is he playing both sides of this?
Abby, I think you're going to see more fireworks. I mean, Trump has a lot going for him in this particular case, just as Republicans have pointed to other Democrat politicians in the past and try to make them individuals that they identify with certain brands of the Democrat Party. And in this case, Mamdani has identified himself as a democratic socialist, or as conservatives would say, a communist. And so why wouldn't they play up some of the policy proposals and the cost of those and what it would mean in terms of the implications for the residents of New York City were he to be elected? And yes, you're going to see more.
But on what basis would Trump withhold $7.4 billion from New York?
Well, we know Congress controls the purse strings, so there's a lot that, that he would have to
He's going to really say, New Yorkers, you exercised your right to vote. We're going to take your tax dollars away from you.
Except New Yorkers spent almost 18% of GDP on federal taxes. I'm talking about New York City taxpayers, 18% of their GDP last year on paying federal taxes. The idea that the president is going to retaliate against local leaders just because he doesn't like their politics and withhold money that they're entitled to is ridiculous to me. And honestly, it sets up a really, really bad precedent. I would be disgusted if Biden did something like that. It disgusts me that Trump is threatening to do it just because he doesn't like Mamdani, doesn't like his politics, and wants to go against the will of voters in New York City.
Well, there's 2 points, if I can, that I want to make here. One is New York is the beating heart of the Democratic Party right now. One, you have a socialist, self-described socialist, that is not a pejorative, he says it himself, who's running for mayor of New York City. And you have Chuck Schumer, who is driving us towards a government shutdown because he's worried about a primary challenge from AOC. It is incredibly New York-centric, and it's the battle taking place in the Democratic Party.
True.
The second point is the former governor of Indiana, Mitch Daniels. I was at this event back in 2009 in my home county, Lake County, Indiana, which has had a troubled past. It's where Gary is located. But people were complaining about all the corruption and the grift that was happening there and asking him for help. And he said, quote, I believe in home rule, and you're entitled to all the lousy, clumsy, graft-ridden government you're willing to pay for.
Now, Pete Seat, I guess that's how his name is pronounced, S-E-A-T. So Pete Seat, the MAGA guy here, he talks about the Democratic Party running through New York City. But what he doesn't bring up is the wannabe mob boss that inhabits the White House right now is also a New Yorker. So does the Republican Party run through New York also? And it's a really excellent point from Anna Kasparian here that think about what Trump is doing. You know, former presidents, both parties, anytime there's a natural disaster, of course, the federal government is going to go in and help the people out. Donald Trump wants to try to place exclusions on that if they're not, if a state or a city within a state doesn't have the politics that Donald Trump wants it to have, or they don't pay enough allegiance to Donald Trump, then he wants to try to withhold money from them. And like Anna Kasparian brings up here, these people are paying federal taxes in New York City or San Francisco or Chicago or Los Angeles or any of these, Portland, any of these other cities that Donald Trump doesn't like, but they're still paying federal taxes. But Donald Trump is going to try to deny them the resources and tax money that are owed to them by them paying their taxes. Maybe people in these cities should stop paying taxes, federal taxes, that is, if they're not going to get, if what they're going to get from the federal government is going to be conditional. I mean, we can say this about a different thing every day, but we've never seen anyone as horrible as Donald Trump inhabiting the White House, in modern times, since anyone's been alive, basically. And the other thing, basically words have no meaning anymore. So you have this Rob Bluey who says, well, Mamdani is a democratic socialist, but conservatives say he's a communist. Donald Trump calls people, he did this with Kamala Harris, she's a Marxist, socialist, communist, fascist. So all these, 4 different terms that all have different meanings, but they're just interchangeable to Donald Trump and MAGA. And these MAGA types that go on Abby Phillip show every night, basically it's just whatever I don't like. Throw woke in there also. So anything that I don't like is socialist or communist or Marxist or Maoist or fascist or woke. None of these words mean anything anymore because MAGA can't define them. It's just whatever they're against, say it's communist.
Right now, you're entitled to all the socialism you're willing to vote for.
Fair enough. Well, I'll tell you this, though, man, I'm glad that you even described Democratic Party having a heart, because it seems to me they've been so spineless.
I'm feeling nice today.
You're very, very kind.
Well, Dr.
But I would
West,
say this,
let
though.
me ask you this, because it's perhaps to the point that you're going to make here. But the Democratic Party, it's a big question. What should they do with Mamdani? And in the New York Times, there was an argument that they should embrace the eat the rich populism, a scorching economic message delivered by political outsiders standing up to the powerful. The villains in this narrative are the elites at the top of the broken system. Do you think that that's right? The Democrats should just forget about the labels and just embrace the economic populism?
Oh, and it is a populism. It's not a socialism. Mamdani's not a socialist at all. This is New Deal liberalism, New Deal social democratic policies. And New York is not just the center of what you said to be the Democratic Party. It's the center of the national and international capitalist order. So if Trump wants to be a gangster and bully and said, I'm going to take your money if you win, doesn't he realize that when people straighten their backs up and have a spine and respond to his bully activity, if New York wanted to boycott the federal government as a city, the government would go down too. And there's an identity in New York that cuts across class. Brooklyn, boogie down Bronx, I live in Harlem. New York would be able to come together. So all this talk about socialism, that's just abstract so-and-so. Brother Zohran is a liberal, he's a social democrat, he's no revolutionary at all.
I actually agree with your take on that. And honestly, I think Mamdani represents the class-based politics that Trump pretended to be about and ran on both in 2016 and 2024.
And Brother Bernie
didn't deliver.
Ran on it too.
He did.
And many of us were with him, but
exactly.
he was unable to succeed at that level. But thank God the brothers Zohran, Kwame, Mamdani doing his thing.
I'll give you this much. I do think he's tapped into the issues that particularly young people care about. I mean, they can't afford housing in this country because the price is so high and interest rates are, at historic levels, and all of these challenges that they're encountering as they enter the world. The problem is that the policies that he's pursuing are not going to make things any better for them. And we know this because we can look at 4 years of Joe Biden and the spending spree that the federal government went on and what that meant for the cost of living and inflation in this country.
I think Joe Biden and Mamdani are very different. Joe Biden was all about public-private partnerships. For instance, like the infrastructure bill, which, Democrats love to talk about, love that it happened, but it really privatizes a ton of public infrastructure. There's a lot of corporate giveaways in there. Mamdani comes from a different school of thought.
Yeah.
So this is a great point from Dr. Cornel West talking about how Mamdani is not a socialist, but he's just a New Deal Democrat. And this is what a lot of people are calling for. If you watch Kyle Kulinski's videos, he talks about this a lot, that the Democrats could lean into just policies that were part of the New Deal, that policies that were incredibly popular with FDR. They could lean into those and let the Republicans and MAGA call that socialist. It doesn't matter. Like Abby Phillip says here, the Democrats don't really seem to care. Now, the Democratic establishment, the Chuck Schumers and Nancy Pelosi's, they care. But younger people in the party and younger voters don't care because MAGA called Joe Biden socialist and communist and fascist. They called Obama communist and socialist and fascist. If they're going to call you these names anyway, why worry about it? It doesn't matter what they do. The Democratic Party could say, we're going to make taxes on anybody over $1 million. We're going to make that zero. And they would still say they're communist and fascist and Maoist and all of that. So who cares? Try to lean into good policies. Now, that's where you get into the problem that Ana Kasparian and Dr. Cornel West are alluding to here. Most of the Democratic Party doesn't want to actually do those things. And that's what worries me about the midterms. As bad as Donald Trump is in his second term, they can't continue to just keep saying, well, he's a fascist, so you have to vote for us. We're not going to do anything for you, the Democrats, but you have to vote for us because Donald Trump is so much worse. Sadly, I don't think that's working anymore. So the Democratic Party has to have some actual policies. They have to have a heart, as Cornel West is saying here. And especially if Mamdani wins, hopefully maybe that will set up a blueprint for the Democratic Party. If the Democratic establishment doesn't want to go along with that, get them out of the way and let the younger people take over. But let me know what you think about all this. Do you agree with what Ana Kasparian and Dr. Cornel West had to say about Mamdani and Donald Trump's reaction to him on Abby Phillip's show? Or do you agree with the two MAGA types here, Rob Bluey and Pete Seat? Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'm Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.